honey super off, and then we'll set the second box off. We're hoping to find most of the brood downstairs and not upstairs, because they were filling this second box with honey the last time we were in here. So one thing we'll be looking, have they completed that?
What we need to mention too is people need to check that bottom box, because a lot of times if you haven't checked that bottom box and she's moved up and laid up in here, this is empty, and then you pull your supers off in the end of July or August, and this box is empty, and everything's in here, and there's no honey.
Yeah.
There's no, and it's too late.
I saw a lot of posts on Facebook this last 2 weeks of people saying, "Oh, I looked in my second box. I haven't looked in the bottom."
Yeah, they don't do
and you
that.
can't. That isn't a hive check. I'll bring that up.
Okay, you ready?
Yep. Okay, we're going to remove this lid. We borrowed another lid to set our honey super on, but before we go any further, we got it on here, and we're going to take a look at it and just peek to see what's going on, so we have some idea. And you can see it is glued down extremely well. Give me your smoker there.
We bring up flames too, Jim.
Okay. They're going a little excited there. So we got a lot of burr comb on top. What's it look like down there?
It looks like they're filling it up real well.
So we had a weight gain in this hive since we last looked at it, but we also added a super to it. So if we see a good amount of honey upstairs, we're probably in pretty good shape. Normally, the frame you check on your honey super to see what's going on is the middle frame, to see if you've got any brood that would indicate the queen has come upstairs. So Jim's going to gently take out that middle frame. It doesn't look like they're capping upstairs yet, so that's good, but it's pretty full.
It's real full.
So no brood in the middle?
No, it's all honey.
So
all nectar.
We're in good shape in the top box. I'm not going to disturb it any further. We have investigated and seen what we want to see. These plastic frames like to adhere to everything in sight, so that's what we're seeing here. So we set that aside. You know, you got to find a couple 2x4s or something to set your super on. You don't want to set your second box on it, because the same rule applies that we apply why we remove the second box before we work it, is that we want to make sure that we're not hurting the queen or a bunch of bees, because we're rolling them underneath the frames when we lift them. Plenty heavy, huh?
Yeah.
I see basically honey here and honey here. Most of this is pretty open, so we probably got going on in here exactly what you want. As a hobbyist, looking in the second box isn't the real answer. Now, the easiest frame for Jim to take out is going to be this one right here. You can see him prepping to do it. So you look to see, and then he's going to take it out very gently so he doesn't hurt a queen if she's on it. Look at that. Didn't knock a bee off. Gorgeous brood. Still got nice big mature. One of the things you'll notice now is your drones are large. They're not as fuzzy around the head. That tells you they're pretty mature, so they're good mating drones. Remember, a drone needs to be hatched and lollygag around the hive for about 10 days before it's actually mature enough to mate. So this next hive I can see, just looking down there, we got a boatload of capped brood. I don't see a queen, but here's an immature drone, all fuzzy. So it just recently hatched. You can see it's top of its head and compare it to this guy here who's fairly mature. Looks like we're having a hatch out there, or is she laid back through that?
No, it's hatching.
Yeah, that's a hatching frame, so we don't have the queen coming back through yet. Jim was commenting before we started, and so did Larry, that in working their hives so far, the bees have been very, very gentle. So that's a real plus.
Okay, she's come back and laid through here.
So this is a hatched out frame and she's laid in it. So don't see her. I would kind of expect her to be close to a frame like this.
Well, that's a larva, so...
Yeah, so maybe the next one's got a lot of capped brood on it.
Yeah.
So looking at this hive so far, it's weathering the heat quite well. It's doing good. Look at all that capped brood. No sign of her. Remember, not seeing the queen is not the end of the world. As soon as I see eggs and larvae, I'm happy. And so should you. And just keep right on going. You'll see we are not seeing any sign of them even making cups right now. So they're pretty well stopped their indications of doing anything stupid. Still raising a few drones, which tells you they have not decided the season is over yet. So if they're still raising drones, there's still hope for them to get more honey. They haven't completely, usually that's the first thing.
Okay, here's eggs.
So she's close by.
So she maybe next frame she might be on it.
She's had a lot of hatch out here. This hive, once we added the honey super on it, was not having a lot of issues with bearding, though it has bearded during the day and at night through this whole hot spell.
This is all, this is all larvae in here.
Looks beautiful. Now this is what she laid earlier, and she's relaying this outside ring. Again now, what do we have in here? Larva or honey? Eggs or larva? She's still...
They're laying, it's nectar.
Okay, so they're starting to shift that outside frame to nectar, which is what we would expect them to do in mid-season. And she's probably still got some brood here. What do we got in there?
Yeah, they're prepping it for nectar.
So they're getting ready to shift that outside frame to stores, which you should expect they would do. Remember, they like to store honey on the outside for winter, and that's what they're getting ready. So don't be surprised. Don't go shifting frames around unless she's got a whole bunch of frames upstairs that are full of, let's look at the upstairs frame before we close it up. We might want to pull one. So we're gonna look at the second box before we get too excited here and see what we got. Where do you want to go? Right here.
All honey.
All honey. Now you can see they have capped all of this. This is all nectar that is in the process. You can see here in this corner right here how they're capping. And if we went in and looked at this frame next week, you can sit over here. There's lots of. There will be more capping done, and probably most of the frame will be done. Now this, looking down at that outside frame here, this outside frame is capped right to the bottom. And again, honey. So I would suspect we might have one frame with brood on it upstairs, or two at the very most, not very much. Little bit of brood right here. Okay, perfect. It's in the middle of the box. As it hatches out, if there's still a nectar flow, they will fill that in and shut her down. Okay, the other side, they've already shut it down. Okay, So brood in the middle of the second box right now, a couple frames is not bad. Remember, we're looking for winter a second box full of honey. We're looking for her to, you can see she's got brood right in here, a good patch of it, but you can see right here, they're already starting to fill all the way around it.
As soon as this brood emerges, you can see right here, they're starting to fill it with honey, starting to fill it with nectar.
Same on this side, there she is right there. So do we want to brush her downstairs? What do you want?
I think we leave her right there.
I do too.
I think we leave her right there.
She'll go back down because she doesn't have much
she'll go
room to
down.
lay up here.
Yep.
The beautiful queen, she's in the second box. You have a choice of putting her downstairs or leaving her upstairs. There's really no need for us to do much more here. This is kind of a light inspection. You don't have to look at everything to know everything is good.
Well, you can see that everything is good.
This is practically picture perfect going forward. We've got basically 3 frames of honey, a couple frames of brood. This outside frame is fat and capped, and this one here is capped. So she's being squeezed in on the top is what she wants. They're squeezing her in on the outside and the bottom. That's really good. So this hive is really a picture perfect hive for what we would say we would want to see. Of course, the chances of you seeing that are slim and none. They always got something for us to worry about.
Yeah.
So now we're going to put this frame back in this hive very carefully. You notice we didn't need to look at all the outside frames. We just looked at one to see that they were closing it down, and that's what we wanted to see. And so we're looking really good. All right, put her down. We smoked the bees off the top. Jim's gonna slowly move it over. See if we can keep from squeezing bees. Now we'll put our super on. I think what I will do is bring another super and put on this hive just to give us a little insurance policy. If there is a rainstorm come along and we get a bloom that we don't expect, we'll be prepared for it. But this one is getting good winter stores already. We've got about 6 frames of honey in there, and the rest of that is brood and honey. Remember, your frames now will turn to not 100% brood, but about 70-30 brood and honey. So that's very good. Remember, as the fall goes on, she's at max production right now. She's just got to maintain, so she's going to be okay. She looked excellent. The brood looked very healthy. We didn't see any sign of any issues with the brood at all, and so we're in pretty good shape here. Now, one thing I did notice when we were looking at the frames, I would say we didn't see a big patch of pollen. We saw small amounts around each brood frame, but we did not see big patches of pollen. That means they've been hustling honey, not pollen lately, but they might change their mind here pretty soon.
Well, she's shutting down too because of all this heat, so they don't need as much pollen.
Yep. So we're looking pretty good here. Hope your hives look that good too.